Afternoon, Gordon. How are you?
Afternoon, Peter. Well, thanks. Yourself?
I am very good indeed. Thanks for asking. Gordon, welcome to the Business Spotlight. Thanks very much for taking the time to speak with me today. Could we start? Could you tell me a little about yourself, your background, and your business, please?
Well, I'll start with the business. It's a law practice in the city centre, Belfast city centre. We deal exclusively with local business interests. So our ideal clients are owner managers of SMEs, and we provide services across UK and Ireland. Personally, I've been at this for 35 years, though this practice we've only had open for 20 years. And as you can tell by my accent, I'm originally from Northern Ireland and went to university at Queen's and went straight into practicing law. So perhaps not a very diverse experience, but a long one.
And did you see yourself niching into the commercial side of things when you were studying, or were you an open book then?
Well, the practice of law has changed a lot since then, but the commercial practice really grew out of the boom that Ireland as a whole enjoyed in the 1990s and through into the 2000s, and the practice that I was in at that time, which was a very general, traditional conveyancing probate practice, happened to attract a number of commercial clients. And we grew with them and we learned with them. We discovered new skill sets that we were able to exploit. And that's really what this grew out of. Hopefully it's become significantly more sophisticated since then, but that was the basis of it.
You talk about working with local business owners, SMEs, that sort of thing. As your target market, will your target market remain like that, or how do you see it developing over the next sort of 12 months and beyond?
So I think that's the core of it, Peter. We took a very clear decision, probably just pre-COVID, to say that we would stop doing anything which wasn't aimed at our core market. So for example, like many practices, we would have provided personal injury litigation services. Well, that's not really something that helped to differentiate us as being in that business market. So that was a service we decided was better being catered to by other members of the profession. Part of the journey over the last 5 or 6 years has actually been fining down what we do to make it more specific to businesses and to business owners in particular. And that's a constant process. But I think the next part of the journey is rolling it out. So it's still very targeted services, very bespoke to those clients, but rolling out the client base so that we're providing more services into England, Wales, and the Republic of Ireland.
And is this so? Well, I'll ask you a little bit later on just about how the business looks in the future. What would you say now, if you reflect back on your years in business, what would you say has been your biggest lesson as a business owner?
Actually, probably the one that I have just mentioned, which is don't try to be all things to all people. Have a clear idea of A, the things that you're good at, and B, your market, understanding your market and making sure that the services that you're providing are actually appropriate to the people who you want to buy those services from you. And I think I wouldn't say we're perfect at it, but we've got a lot better at doing that in the last few years.
And what along your journey, what have you learned about yourself, Gordon?
Staying calm is a very important thing. And as somebody with red hair from Lurgan originally, that maybe isn't a natural predisposition, but I've definitely become more calm as the years have gone on, and taking partly it comes with the territory in law, but trying to take a balanced approach and understanding human nature is a really important part of that journey.
And who's influenced you the most along the way?
Oh, there's a good question. Personally, we've had some superb clients who have been a great influence. Always difficult to mention names, but there's one particular client whose name I won't mention, but he runs a very successful business, and anytime he asks for advice, he says, "Can you put that down on one side of A4?" And the reason he asks for that is not because he's a short attention span, but because he knows that if you don't understand it, you can't put it down on one side of A4. So it's a test for you to see what you can understand. The late Bernard Eastwood was a very good client of mine, and I learned a huge amount from him in how to deal with people, and how to how best to structure things so that everybody involved felt like they were getting something out of it. So I would certainly name him as somebody who was very influential along my journey.
If you think of today, what is it that gets you out of bed in the morning and drives your passion for your business?
I still enjoy it, and one of the reasons that I enjoy it, Peter, is that uh, it actually gives you a huge range of skill sets. So just in the last 3 years, I've become involved with clients developing data centers across UK and Ireland. Now that's 10 years ago, we didn't know what data centers were. And that's been a journey trying to understand how data centers are financed, the elements that go into constructing them, how they monetize. And it might be next week, next month, but sometime in the next 6 months, there'll be something new coming along. So it's always innovative, there's always change. And if you weren't attracted by that, there would be something wrong with you.
And if you had the luxury of being on a desert island and could pick a book or a podcast to read or listen to, what would you go for?
Oh, well, definitely wouldn't be anything. It's not going to be Halsbury's Laws of England, I'll tell you that. Um, uh, uh, hmm. I do like Dickens, so I might well fall back on Bleak House, which is uh, uh, a better read than it sounds.
And what's the biggest challenge that you're currently facing in your business today?
Oh, that's really easy. It is recruitment and retention. Um, so I'm sure you're hearing that across a lot of industries. I have a suspicion that law in Northern Ireland is very badly affected because um, there's only a small number of firms that are producing newly qualified lawyers, but the demand for them has increased because there's demand in various sectors for lawyers. So while there's still maybe only 90 a year coming through, there's now banking businesses, big law in Belfast who are taking those up. So trying to attract and retain talent is the biggest challenge, and you have to be alive to it and make sure that you're offering people the opportunities to develop their own skills within your business.
And Gordon, if you could invite any three people, alive or dead, to a dinner party, who's going to be there?
Oh, ooh. Um, So in the bookshops at the moment, I don't know if you've seen that book Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari. He wrote a book called Sapiens a few years ago. I think the guy's brilliant. So I would have him there, and he can tell us how we all evolved from being monkeys into what we are today, which might still be monkeys. The John Lennon, definitely. Always been a huge fan of John Lennon, and George Best. You'd have to have George Best there.
Very good. That's an eclectic evening, if ever there was one.
Yeah.
And if you could go back, if it were possible, and you could go back in time and dish out some advice to the young, fresh-faced 18-year-old Gordon, what would that sound like?
There might have been don't do law. Uh, uh, I think probably the thing it's taken me a long time to learn is that this business and every business is about people. So while you spend a lot of time being trained and learning legal concepts and legal principles, I would probably have spent more time on the soft side and the skills of getting to know people and building relationships with people. I think that, in any walk of life, that's what separates the guys who do well from the people who are mediocre. And it's certainly something I would say to our young solicitors in the office. Build your relationships within your own peer groups, and work out from there. So something about that is what I would have gone back and told myself.
Yeah, that's a great advice. And what about, so instead of looking back, let's look forward 5 years. So you're approaching 2030. Oh, it sounds more like a time than a date, but so you're approaching 2030. What does MKB Law look like then?
Well, I'd like to think it's grown significantly at the moment. Our two big projects that I mentioned earlier are trying to be more of an all-island firm, and also servicing local businessmen moving into England and Wales. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. Something about having done business in Northern Ireland all of our lives, I believe we're hungrier and more driven than many of the competitors who you meet in Dublin, Manchester, London. There's been no space for complacency in providing professional services. And you hear that across lots of disciplines, not just law, but accountancy, architecture as well. So if I was able to plot it out, I think those are the markets that I'd want to see us developing.
And if somebody likes what they've heard, Gordon, would like to reach out and get in touch with you or the business, what's the best way for them to go about that?
We have a decent website, so you'll always get us a Google search of MKB Law or a Google search of my name, and you'll get our contact details, and just click through, and very happy to have a chat.
Brilliant. Well, Gordon McElroy from MKB Law, thanks very much for taking the time to speak with me today. Great story, some great shares along the way, and I wish you a great end of what we've got left of 2024 and every success in 2025 and beyond, Gordon. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Peter. Enjoyed it, and first time I'll say it this year, Happy Christmas.
Yeah, there you go. Right back at you. Happy Christmas.